Today we're back at RAF Beaulieu. It's one of the Second World War airfields and the New Forest. As you can see today, it's very much reclaimed by nature, but there still are some parts of it, some sites that give you a clue as to what it used to be like. We're going to visit one of those today. It's one of the lesser known sites in my opinion, and I think that's probably down to the location and its appearance in many ways. But if you are local, once you see it, you're probably going to want to walk out here yourself. Where we're going to is a few minutes up ahead, but before we get there I just want to take you back in time to the Second World War a little bit, because that'll piece together what we're going to see in a moment. Right now we're walking on what would have been one of the airfield hard stand dispersal areas. On the 1945 map of the airfield that you see at the moment, I've highlighted what our current location is. Now sometimes these areas are referred to as frying pans, and that's for obvious reasons, as you can see. At the moment you can't make the areas out from where we're walking, but if you take a bird's eye view, you can see the frying pan shaped dispersal areas very clearly on aerial photography that's been taken over the last 20 years. They were called hard stands because the flooring was made from hard concrete, and that would stop the heavy planes from sinking into the ground. They were spaced out like this also across the airfield to reduce the risk, because by being set this distance apart from each other, any attack on the airfield by the enemy would be less likely to destroy all the airfield at once. We're now coming up to the end of the hard stand area that you saw on that map. And what you see in front of us, if you can make that out, but we're going to get close to it, is our destination. It's affectionately known as the Hump by local people. You'll see it a bit better in a moment when we get to it. Now the reason it's up ahead like this is because the planes would taxi into this hard stand, aim at the hump, then fire their guns into the target set in front of it. By doing so, that would let the gunners of the planes accurately test their weapons. Let's go and take a closer look. Before I research the airfield, I drive past the hump here on the way to Lymington from Beaulieu, and I'd always assume it was a barrow, also known as Bronze Age burial ground, and I think that's an easy mistake to make due to the appearance of it. But the truth is, the hump in front of us here is actually man-made, and it was created by piling up all this earth into a big hump like you see. And by doing so, the aircraft could test their weapons safely by shooting bullets into the earth in front of us, rather than the bullets flying over the heath and hitting the village of Pilley, which is behind the hump. And the hump we're now on even has an official name, and it's called the Shooting In Butt, or Shoot In Butt. And you've got stunning views, as you can see, all around us. Shooting in butts are a very common feature in World War II airfields, but typically they'd be built by creating brick enclosures and then piling sand in there to safely slow down and catch the bullets. But the RAF Beaulieu one that we're stood on now is just earth piled up, and it could be that they didn't have the budget to create a proper shooting in butt or testing range, or it could be that the supplies weren't available locally, because World War II airfields like this, they had to rely on local supply in order to build all the buildings and structures. I don't know if you can imagine it, but the hard stand area is over there. That's the path we came down. Can you imagine the planes being parked up in there and shooting into targets just in front of this mound? It doesn't really bear thinking about, or actually maybe it does. It'd be quite a dramatic scene at the time.
One of the Army's deadliest fighter planes, the Curtiss P-40, loads up for a ground firing test. When the pilot presses the trigger, 6 machine guns bark at one. 2 50 caliber guns in the nose, shooting right between the whirling propeller blades.
So there's stunning views, like I said. There's Beaulieu, the Beaulieu Road, Beaulieu to Lymington Road, as you can see. We've also got over this way, that's the rest of the airfield, the bomb stores where those trees are over there. Not sure how well you can make it out. Round Hill campsite will be this way. But then one last thing which is just really impressive and stunning is this pond behind the hump. I think it's going to be iced up today, but we'll go down in a minute and have a closer look. As you can see, it's a huge pond. Now, I don't know for sure, but I think it's a good assumption to make that the reason the pond is there is probably because it's man-made. I imagine that all the earth, the diggers, the men dug that pond out to create the hump we're just walking down now. Now here's the pond a bit more closer up. I think my son's probably going to enjoy chucking some stones onto the ice today, but in the summer you can imagine it would be a beautiful place to come and have a picnic perhaps. But just look at the size of it, and actually the size of the pond roughly correlates to the size of the big hump. Certainly worth a visit to come out here, have a walk. It's always so peaceful, and I think, as I said earlier in the video, that's probably because it takes a little bit of effort to get here. You have to park up and then walk, and it's not on the perimeter track as such like a lot of the RAF Beaulieu sites are. Just coming around to the other side of the pond because you get a much better perspective on the hump, the mound, the test firing range, the shooting butt, call it what you will, but here it is. You can really see it, and you can see the expanse of pond again where all that earth was probably taken out by diggers. And it would have been diggers because these airfields were built in part with commercial enterprises. I'm pretty sure building firms like Wimpy that you might have heard of, they would have helped with this. So yeah, this hump, it did in some way contribute towards the war effort, particularly D-Day. I imagine it was the US Typhoons, I think, or some US fighters. I'll put it down at the bottom. They took off from here to support the D-Day operation. So if you like history like this out in the New Forest or Hampshire, do subscribe to the channel because we love coming out here. I'm trying to document everything I find out about this airfield at the moment on a website I've set up called rafbeaulieu.co.uk. So if you want to learn a little more, see what I've found, go check it out. There's lots of pathways that you can get up to the top of the hump. There's about 3 or 4 like this that go up the sides. You can see how people have made these tracks with their feet in the last 80 years or so. It's great for kids to come up here too, because once they get to the top they think they're the king of the castle. And a good game is to always see if you can throw a stone into the pond. So we're going to head off home now. I think we're all getting a bit cold. So yeah, hope to see you soon.